to Digging Deeper class, and today is Righteous Romance, the Song of Solomon. And hard lesson to do. I say interesting. Jean left because she doesn't think this should be in a mixed class, and I I think that's true in ways. I mean, it is. When you read this, when you read the Song of Solomon, to me, I have a hard time. You wonder why it's in there. But I think you have to say it applies to everywhere. And what you see in the Song of Solomon is just something that applies everywhere. And that we forget is good, happy, positive behavior makes life better. I mean, it just does. And that's what you see in our lesson today. It's say something nice about someone else. Do something nice for someone else. Applaud their goods. And the thing that I notice when I read through this, and I think the thing you see in Song of Solomon, not once did either one of them try to correct the other one. Through this whole thing, not once did they say your breath smells great, but it could be better if. Not once. All that's in here is positive. And you say, gosh, well, aren't we supposed to correct? And aren't we? Yeah, the Bible does say we're supposed to gently correct. We're supposed to, but there's a place for that. And there's a time, and we so much skip all the rewards, all the good, and go straight to correcting. And I thought when I read this, and you say, well, shouldn't we always correct? And I say, look at the time Jesus spent with the people that truly needed correcting. Look at, I think it's Mary Magdalene, wasn't it, where he talked and talked and talked. And he had lots of chances to correct her, didn't he? But what did he do? How much time spent on correcting her? Really none, is it? Go and sin no more. Now, he could have defined those sins, couldn't he? And he could have, and he knew them, obviously. You're not married with that guy you're with, are you? But he didn't do that. And I think that's what you can see, what you can get out of Song of Solomon, whether it's with your spouse, whether it's with anyone you're dealing with, is God is about making us feel good. I'm just going to, I still say, is religion to feel positive and good? Yes, it is. Is it all good? Does it protect us from bad? Absolutely not. And how do you do that? And it's you try to let people feel good. You be positive, you be encouraging, while you don't try to make God cover up the bad. And that's the thing I think we do. I will say in this church, in every church now, we don't want people to feel bad, so it's like we just gloss over the bad. That isn't what happens here, is it? What happens here is they're saying good so you don't have to think of the bad right now. I'm encouraging. They're not saying there's nothing bad. I mean, I think Solomon was king here. He still had his sheep. He had to go to work. And yet you don't see anything about him saying, well, gosh, if I didn't have to go to work, you wouldn't have to come hunting me down. I could be home and we could be enjoying the day before our wedding and everything would be great. But instead, he says, well, if you want to find me, follow the sheep. Follow our tracks. I'll be there. Come camp out beside me. So anyway, that's what we're going to talk about, Song of Solomon, and it's called Righteous Romance. First part is it's about being together, and this is 1 verse 7 and 8. Tell me, you, the one I love, where do you pasture your sheep? When do you let them Where do you let them rest at noon? Why should I be like one who builds herself besides the flocks of your companions? If you do not know, most beautiful of women, follow the tracks of the flock and pasture your young goats near the shepherd's tents. What I kind of said or wanted to ask here, and I mean I think you just got considerate about everything, but
What does
God
that mean?
God did good. By the way, this morning I was going to invite my wife to come, and she wound up in a conversation with someone else. So when we got to the splitting time, I couldn't talk to her. So that's probably good, because I would have been corrected that none of this is how I am really like. But anyway, it is tough. What I said is, can you see the depth of love and desire that she had to be near him? She just wanted to be near him.
But when she says, "Why should I be like one who veils herself beside the flocks of your companion?" Is she talking
because
about
prostitutes,
why should I be like all
because
the rest of them?
prostitutes followed shepherds, and so basically what that's saying is, how can I come find you and not look like a prostitute out there in the fields?
Oh.
And then he responds by telling her, get your own flock of goats, just follow the tracks, see where my flock went, and then put your tent up by my tent. Yeah, and sounds pretty silly, doesn't it?
So she can like become like one of all the rest of them that he was seeing?
No.
He loved her.
So she wouldn't look like a prostitute out there in the fields.
Oh, okay.
So she wants to come look for him. However, the kind of women that go wandering around in the shepherd's fields aren't all such great people.
Because the shepherds are just loaded.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So
that's confusing. I don't get it.
yeah, it is. What I kind of ask, and I still say, you can see how they long to be with each other. All that. How do we keep that? How do you keep positive like that? I mean, not just here, everywhere. I mean, I just think that's. Do you want to be with people? Do you want to be separate from people? Do you want to be near the ones you love? Is it better if you're not really that close to each other? Doesn't distance make love grow fonder or something like that? Isn't that right?
Sometimes it makes it longer.
So yeah. So how do you keep this feeling? We all know, I think, everyone that's ever been in a relationship, we all start with this, don't we?
The stages of love, I teach this, and it starts out being, there's a passionate love that is in the beginning, where nobody does anything wrong. You do no wrong. It's nothing but complimentary.
Lasts what, about a year?
And then you go into the other phases, and they escape me right now. But you end up, in the companionate phase as we get older. Where if you make it to the companionate phase, then that's not where this is.
No.
I say this is still in the what?
The passionate
Infatuation.
phase.
Yeah.
Infatuation.
Yeah. And I mean, give it 5 years, and she's not going to be following him out in the desert. Well, does that mean the love is gone? Not necessarily. It's just in a different phase. Because love does mature into other things. If it's real, it will mature into these other phases and continue on with a different look. Does that make sense? Because we have to move on.
But it changes. It matures as we mature.
Yes.
And if it does mature, the second half of your life is miserable.
Yeah.
And someone else is miserable too.
Right.
I think when I was traveling on the road, she was not with me, and I got to see and be at some amazing places, and it wasn't as exciting as if when she would fly out to meet me somewhere, because then we would both get to see it together. So that part of being one, maybe or separate a little bit. It was always more exciting when she was there to enjoy what I was viewing and seeing too.
Yeah, I think that's something I guess I would say. And part of what I want to see here is as you're showing people how that love should go, and as we talk about people are going to be watched. Well, your kids are watching you now, and your grandkids watching you now, and how you do. And I think that is, where it says you're going to leave your mom and dad, and two will become one. And I think that's something that is true, and boy, is it easy to forget when those two are together. It's easy to me, wherever I'm at, if you see something, it's just like you say, well, I wish Cindy was here to be part of me with this. It's when the two of you are together too long, where I think sometimes I know I do, maybe y'all don't, I know I do, forget to be polite. Forget to do all the positive things that I should be doing, and become abrupt or become whatever. And you say, I think, and I think this is true, I think it's part of love. We will do things to people we love we would do to no one else in the world. We would hurt people we love like we would hurt no one else in the world. And why is that? Why in the world do we do that, Mr. Psychologist?
Other people won't put up with it. They'll tell you where to go.
Good point. Good point. And there's an investment. If I can, that's probably a terrible way to look at it, but there is an investment made. And so even if when there's the respect is not there, still, I don't know where to go with that.
Well, I think it gets to be a level of mutual respect, always trying to uplift the other partner. And you can carry that, or I try to carry that on to everybody I meet every day.
Mm-hmm.
That I hope that when I leave, they feel a little bit better. Instead of being critical and looking for the warts, we learn to look past the warts on each other.
Well, Rick has said before, on several occasions, that his wife has asked him, I wish you would treat me the way you treat your church members, something like that. You guys remember him saying something like that? And I understand what he's saying there. Because if we're not careful, we will take advantage of our loved ones.
I think it's taken for granted.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, taken for granted. Yeah.
For me, that's what happens. You just take the other person for granted.
Yeah.
Love for granted.
Do you think, and you mentioned the stages of love, and I'm glad Cindy's not here. I hope she doesn't know how to watch this.
Oh, she's going to watch this.
I'll know tomorrow.
So, my question is, do you really leave this stage? Because I don't think I have. Have I added stages on top of it? Sure I have. But can I still feel like this? Absolutely. Do I still get the tinglies? I do. If I'm unique, tell me, and I'm going to make sure Cindy watches this. but I think that's something we've got to say or think about. It is, yes, I've grown. Yes, there's a whole lot. And do I have to have the tinglies to be absolutely thrilled to be married? No. But isn't it wonderful when you get that, and don't you wish and think, how can I make that happen more often? And so I think somewhere along the line still we do it all the time. I'm going to go mow my yard today. I want my yard to look great. I'm going to cut the grass, do everything good. If I don't weed eat, it ain't going to look so good, is it? And I think we do that in our relationships. We do everything, but we leave out a little part, and it ain't quite so pretty. It's still nice. My yard's gonna look nice after I mow it today, but it ain't gonna be what I would like it to be if I don't take the time to do everything. And I think that's it in our relationships, is you've got to, you can't do one little part. You got to mow, and you got to cut the hedges, and you got to fertilize, and you got to weed eat, and you got to do all that stuff. You got to have a nice yard if you don't do all that.
No, you're not necessarily.
and that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. What if you do neglect the one thing that was vital and you didn't know it? And I know I've been close to that on occasion. I mean, I bet all of us who are married have been close to that, where we forgot the vital part, or didn't think it was that important, and all of a sudden we got weeds growing around the mailbox, growing everywhere, and our pretty yard ain't so pretty anymore. And so, anyway, I don't know. Anything else?
Gary Smalley was here years and years and years ago. We did a program here at this church called 5 Love Languages that was very beneficial and for a guy and a man and a woman to understand how each one ticks and what makes them happy and what makes them sad. Totally different things. If you understand those things, I think it helps.
Yeah, Rick talked about that one sometime not too long.
That's where he got that.
Yeah, and I think that is how you talk, and and that's what it talks about in here. All the things that are said. We probably, I would say Cindy probably would not be so good if I said her teeth were like a flock of freshly shorn sheep.
I can remind her of that tomorrow.
It's amazing to me about teeth. I just said one of the funniest things I've ever seen, because in here they talk about teeth. We don't talk about teeth now because we think we all of us. Anyway, there was a description of a guy that robbed a bank. This was in the Cougar, a 5'8", 180 white male with a full set of teeth.
Really? I love it. I think, now being a dentist's daughter, you do still notice teeth.
So that penny wasn't on that, right?
That's funny. That was interesting.
One of my patients commented, though, did it say, are they natural teeth or could it be dentures?
That's funny.
All right, so
That's really funny.
So the next part is mutual admiration, and this is 1:15 through 2:2. How beautiful you are, my darling, how very beautiful your eyes are doves. How handsome you are, my love, how delightful. Our bed is lush with foliage. The beams of our house are cedars, and our rafters are cypresses. I am a rose of Sharon, a lily of the valleys. Like a lily among thorns, so is my darling among the young women.
I think he's smitten.
This is both of them.
Yeah.
This is both of them talking here. And
And Solomon says, what's your name again?
yeah,
Take a number? I don't know.
it is hard, and that's what you wonder when you read this, because we know about Solomon, and you wonder where this came from. Time-wise, someone says it's maybe to his ideal relationship. I don't know. It is, and I again, the wording we would think is silly. So she's talking about the house he's going to build her. They're not married yet, supposedly, in this, and so she's talking about how solid of a house and all that he's going to build her. And then she says, I'm a rose of Sharon, the lily of the valleys. And it's kind of weird, because we think that means someone who stands out, and that actually means I'm just a common girl, is what that means. So it's not her saying, oh, I'm the most beautiful ever. It's her saying, I'm just a common girl, and then him replying, no, you're like a lily among the thorns. And so, again, it is, they're both, however you do, they're both trying to say something nice to the other one. That's all I know to say.
That's good.
What I asked on this is, one, I said, see the value of a compliment. Of course, we all know that, but we sure forget it easily. And then I just said, see how the young couple treat each other. What can we learn from that? See the positivity, no negative, no correcting. They right now see good in all. Can we do that in all our life? And did Jesus do that? So is this just two people in love, and if you're not newly in love, you ought not act like this? Can we take an example of this when we say, what would Jesus do? Did he show us this kind of behavior? Is that's what I'm kind of get at is, what about this? I'm happily married. I don't need to know how to impress my wife or impress some female. So we can just throw this part away and it only be applicable to the young unmarried. Is that correct, or what then?
I think you should. I think Betty and I tried to carry that with us throughout our lives, to complement one another. And you can't. Life begins to happen around you, and if you're not careful, you forget to say those little nice things, and everybody likes to hear them after a while. I think you can't just show by actions, and I think we have to verbalize sometimes. That's just kind of the way I feel about it. But I think a marriage, to me, is it's not a 50-50 deal. It's two whole people coming together to complement and glorify each other. But you have to be whole yourself to have a good marriage, I think. You can't bring on all the baggage with you and expect your others to fix that. But you can stay in love as long as that's it. I think that's the key. And it sure is a lot more pleasant than criticizing everything the other one does.
From an academic world, when we talk about this stuff right here, the statistics show, happily married couples live longer, right?
Yeah.
And you guys see that. So there's something to it. I mean, the only reason I bring that up is that God has blessed marriage, right? I mean, that is the blessing from God. And if it's a good one, then I think he blesses the participants in it by rewarding them in such ways as having a little bit happier life. Maybe I don't know how to explain that, but I think you get it. That means you have someone there to back you, to stand you up a little bit, and to maybe reinforce and help you and understand and listen. And anyway, I won't go into that. But that's just from the medical side of it. It's healthier, isn't it?
Well, I think it is. You feel better. You're not as stressed, and I think you look at what I've said, a helpmate.
Right.
And, but yourself, if you have someone working for you and you criticize them all the time, you're not going to have them long.
Right.
But if you compliment them on their good jobs, good tasks, then you're fine. But what we're guilty of, somebody good does a real good job for us, or your spouse does a real good thing, but he left out. That's what we want to tack on them, and then that just blows the whole thing.
Right.
And all women want to be told they're beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's the beginning, the middle, the later years, we all like that.
Guys like that too.
I get sick of being compared to
I tell you, if you really want to understand this from a doctor or psychological physician that's a Christian. Tim LaHaye has the best books on sexuality, marriage, relationship. He has a book called Happy Though Married, and then he has a book called The Act of Marriage, which is more about the sexual aspect. But remember one thing, sex is not a sin if it's performed or committed in the way God created Adam and Eve, be one. But if it goes outside of that boundaries, then that's when it becomes sin.
Well, I mean, and they're not married here.
Well, did you know that the arranged marriages, a lot of people say, I wouldn't want to be in an arranged marriage, but arranged marriages, and it's been proven, are more successful than marriages where you date 10 or 12 years.
Really?
Where it's supposed to be, and I will say, so we do know they're not married here. The scholars, so to speak, think that the first part is like right before they are married. In chapter 3, they get married, and then the end of it is actually after they're married is what they think. And so, like I say, I that's what the Bible scholars say. I can't. I get lost in all the stuff. So
How do you interpret all this in light of what's happened in Arkansas during the last 7 days?
Gerald, why'd you bring that up?
I had trouble with it.
Well, I think God created marriage to procreate, and He promised. So I guess the way we're going now, we won't have that.
They will. Yeah.
There won't be kids in the future.
Natural selection will remove
I'll
that.
tell you what I'm going to say on that, and I think it's true.
I mean, because of controversy, but
It
talk about love.
it shows, well, and that's what I'll say, and I'll just say it here because I do. I've got patients who are homosexual, who are very nice, very, very appropriate when they deal with me. They're very supporting. They're very nice folks, okay? And whether they know they're living in sin or not, I don't know. I will tell them, this is what I think, this is what I believe, and then go on. I think what we've seen the last 7 days shows how terrible our society has become, how weak our influence as the Christian body and as God's church have become. And it's just a shame what we're allowing to happen. And I'm just like, we are allowing to happen. And so if I look at what's going on, do I like homosexuality? No, I don't. Clearly a sin. Do I think I should be able to, and I try real hard, although it's hard for me. No. Should I treat those people politely and correctly as God's children if they are? Yes, I should. But it is horrible that we are saying that's what we want our children to learn. And it's horrible for us to say, well, what we're doing is allowing one little tiny bit of the church to be preached.
Where's the logic of that? Where's the logic? Well, because the last, 30, 40 years, we've had the women's movement that says, hey, we don't have to get married. We can have babies outside of marriage. And if you passed a law that said people have to be married, there would be more controversy at the state capitol because of that than there is for homosexuals demanding to be married.
There is
so
no
where
logic. It's if we pick off we allow one little part of the Bible to be picked off at a time until, we say, well, you can't discriminate against those people. Well, no, you can't. However, you can say we are not going to support that. If you two want to love each other and whatever, y'all have at it, but as a society, we are not going to support that, and we're not going to pay you to do it, and we're not going to say it's right, and we're not going to make it a God-given right. Marriage is not a God-given right. Marriage was a God-given privilege, and God makes that very clear. back when he gave it, the benefits of marriage were only between that man and woman. There were no financial benefits of marriage back when God gave that benefit. It was a man who needed a helpmate. Well, what are we saying? Well, marriage means you get all these benefits from the government. Well, why did the government make those benefits? Because it was a benefit to the government, because when those benefits came about, it provided for the growth of the country. It provided for a stable environment for children who were born to be raised. It keeps those children in better health. It does all that stuff. And that's who you pay. So if you wanted to change it, then let's pay people who go produce a kid and raise them in a home that is a stable environment.
Of course, now, Dr. Martin, people get more money if they're living together and not
Exactly, and that the whole thing is where our society has gone, is that we are supporting
We're supporting them.
non-biblical, we're supporting behaviors that we do not believe in.
So it still goes back to my favorite theory of the law of effect. If you are rewarded for a behavior,
Exactly.
you will repeat that behavior.
Exactly, and that's where we're at. Now, it's it's sad to me, but that's what I think. So I'm going to continue with mine, and I'm going to continue, and I will say, since you said that, I will continue for people who are homosexual and want to act like normal people. I'm going to allow them to do it, and I will still tell them when given a chance I don't agree with that. That is non-biblical. I don't think you should be paid to get married. I don't think any of that stuff. But I still have to do the part God challenges me with, which is to present myself as a Christian and say, this is how you should act.
And you know what? Just kudos to you for that, because I see you might be the only person that God puts in front of folks like that, because of your position and your position of authority and respect and expertise, they do respect your opinion and what you say. It's simply just because of who you are, but they may not get that from anybody else that says, "Hey, look, I don't appreciate or I don't accept the way you live." If they heard that from me, they'd probably get all defensive.
Did you see, I've said how we let ourselves slip. It's almost part of the lesson still, even as that. Did you see the draft thing where the guy got drafted that is the first open homosexual and I didn't watch it, thank goodness, but had the big kiss with his boyfriend and all that kind of stuff. Well, anyway, so basketball player on Ole Miss tweets and says that was completely inappropriate to show, which it was, and he got censured.
He
had to go to sensitive TV.
Yes, and it just says where we're at, because it was, and I'm going to say, if that had been a male and his girlfriend, that was still inappropriate behavior to be showing on. You didn't see any of the other guys doing that.
I agree.
They get a peck on the, if their wife is there, their girlfriend's there, they get a peck on the lips and they act like you ought to act in a crowd. And so, again, it just shows it's just pitiful where we're at. Just pitiful. And
can it get worse?
I was thinking, I started to ask today, when Brother Rick said, what we need to do is these people need to be God's kingdom, be part of God's kingdom, and those people will change the world or something. And I started to ask my son, how do y'all intend to change the world? How can we go? How can we go back? Can we go back, Gerald?
I don't know. Can we?
You've been here a long time. Can we go? Can we get back?
We want to.
But who's
do we
we?
want to?
Who has to be we to do that?
Yeah.
I just read a book, lady who grew up as an atheist, and I'm glad somebody else married her instead of me. because she's a strong-willed person. But in her logical thinking, she says there has to be a source of truth. And in order for a society to survive, there has to be an external truth that everybody has to relate to. I've used the example before that when I drive, if I'm stopped at a red light and it turns green, I look both ways before I start, because there's so many people that ignore that external truth. Is they gonna make it through on a dark pink? And so I just don't. 2 seconds is not that important to me to look both ways to be sure somebody's not going to run.
Golly, I bet you get home.
Across. Well, some people talk to me in sign language. I used to teach it now, so I know sign language. But you have to have a source of truth. Now, the argument comes: where does that source of truth come from? Well, ultimately, it comes from God, whether you believe it or not.
Well, does she, when she says we have to have a source of truth for society to prosper, does she have examples of it, or does she not know?
Well, I used to work with a fellow who's an atheist, and I used to tell him, I said, I don't care if everybody in the world is atheist. If we're going to live together in peace, we have to be honest with each other. And the only car he would drive was a Toyota Camry. And one morning he was sitting at a red light waiting, and the girl came around the corner too fast, and she couldn't cut it, so she just wiped the side off of his Toyota. So he went to a place in Hot Springs, said, "You'll let us fix it." We'll write you a letter and say, the car is as valuable as it's never been wrecked. Well, he took it over there, and then they wouldn't give him the letter. And so for years he cussed that place because they had lied to him. Then he admitted when he was in the Air Force all that, before everybody, he was of a different faith, so that they didn't bug him going to chapel. And so these are things that you have to have an external code of conduct somewhere.
Well, then nobody has it then.
But see, what you go back to the book of Judges, it's true today. It says everybody did that which was right in their own eyes.
Right.
And when that happens, you have nothing but chaos.
That's where we are.
I think it's interesting. Still interesting to me how Jesus moved through sin and interacted with sin, and yet never fell off, never sinned. And that's the hard thing to me is, I said to me, I think where our world is right now, what I see, the only fix is if God said, okay, go slay everyone that is not. I mean, and I don't think he's going to do that again, but it's a tough thing to watch. I don't know. I still say I think we do have to make a stand, and you do have to be willing to tell people, no, that is not biblical, and do it without hatred. And that's the tough part. And I see it all the time. It's very easy for me to say, I don't like that group of people. I'm not being around them. Unfortunately for me, or fortunately, I'm in a spot where I don't really know who's going to show up in my office. You're in that same spot. Right. And so all of a sudden you're presented with someone that comes there trusting you, asking you to solve a problem that you would really just like to say, you know what, I hate you, get out.
Yeah.
And you have to, Greg, you're one of those that does that too.
You do that, Greg?
Yeah, but really and truly, y'all too. So, yeah. But really and truly, you do. You have people that they don't. We try to screen my patients. I really do. But someone will show up and we didn't ask them, are you homosexual? We didn't ask them, are you Buddhist? We didn't ask that. And all of a sudden, here they are. And my first thought is, gosh, I really would just like to say, get out, I can't help you. But then somewhere in there, God says, no, I put them here on purpose. You act right. And boy, is it tough. But I think that's the thing you have to figure out but boy, then it is. Where do we say? How do we get there? And I mean, I want to raise my hand and ask Rick, would you tell these people how to put the world back to where it was? And it's tough. I mean, that verse is easy, and it almost says the same thing. So I'm just going to say this is 2:15. Catch the foxes for us, the little foxes that are in the vineyards, for our vineyards are in bloom. And I just say, what are the foxes? What are they in our relationship? What are they with others? And I said in my relationship, and I think it's almost everywhere, my main fox is negative thoughts and trying to correct things. And I think I could almost say that's universal to me wherever I am is those negative thoughts.
But the little foxes represent, it says, consider the foxes lest they spoil the grapes. And the little foxes are the little sins that we've talked about here in this class. Is this, it's the little things that begin to pull us away. We didn't get to where we're at today by starting homosexual marriage. Just come down the pike, little a little. And just like the old saying, a frog was sitting there, I don't know if this is true, I've always heard it, but he'll put him in a pan of water and turn the heat up gradually, and he won't jump out until he's scalded. Now, I don't know if that's true, but I've heard that a lot in this good illustration. But the little foxes represent the little sins, little things that I got hit from all you guys that we can do.
What do y'all think? I'm back to almost the same. What do you think? Was it Sudan? I don't remember. Somewhere where it is a death sentence to be homosexual.
Well, in most of the Middle Eastern countries.
Saudi Arabia too.
So what do y'all think about that kind of stuff? I mean,
yes.
Are we?
Oh yeah, because the president just visited Nigeria.
Well, I think there's a great difference, and it's equated with the civil rights movement, but I don't see the comparison to how the blacks were treated and beaten and all that to people that are homosexuals. I've not seen any homosexuals or heard of any homosexuals being beaten. Now, they are prejudiced people, but I don't think I don't think if they have brought it to the forefront. They brought it up here. We want to get married, and half the people in America, new generation, that wouldn't get married or don't want to get married. So they want to bring it to the forefront that they can make it an issue that we have to accept.
Well, I never have understood, John, why just because I don't believe in someone's way of life, does that make me prejudiced?
I guess it does. I don't know.
By
But
American Day standards, it does, but I don't believe just because I don't believe the way somebody else lives.
When I bring in the paper, the word, I always look at the headlines on the front page, and then I read the comics. And I saw a comic this week for this boy, looked like he'd be about 12, goes into a store and buys some cigarettes. And the fellow said, "You're a kid, I can't sell you cigarettes." And the last caption says, "How long have you been a racist?"
Yeah, right, I saw that.
Yeah.
Dr. Mark, and if I'm trying to figure out where you went with this just a second ago, but the Islamic countries do punish by death for open homosexuality. Now, is it in the Quran? I don't know for sure. I know the Quran is, the parts I've read, is really looks like based on the Bible. I think Muhammad, better be careful here, just took it and rewrote it to make it fit. But anyway, they do take a stand. They do take a stand. I got to give them that. And then we condemn the Middle Eastern countries for being discriminatory against human rights. Because you guys are mistreating this pocket of people because they're homosexual. And you should be more like us and embrace it. And I'm thinking, I got to give them some respect right there because they are standing on some principles.
We had a little problem at the Olympics because the country that hosted it didn't accept certain athletes with open hearts.
to.
All right, y'all got me off the course.
Yeah, sorry.
Find your place.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the last. I think this is as important as all. Treasure of treasures, and this is supposedly when you read this is after they have been married. So, you have captured my heart, my sister, my bride. You have captured my heart with one glance of your eyes, with one jewel of your necklace. How delightful your love is, my sister, my bride. Your love is much better than wine, and the fragrance of your perfume than any balsam. Your lips drip sweetness like the honeycomb, my bride. Honey and milk are under your tongue. The fragrance of your garments is like the fragrance of Lebanon. My sister, my bride, you are a locked garden and a sealed spring. Two things I asked. One is see how good he feels with his beloved, and can that continue?
He's
And
Twitter
should it
pated.
continue?
He's Twitter paid.
Huh?
He's Twitter pated. Remember that?
Twitter
That was in
pated.
what movie?
And Bambi.
Bambi.
Huh?
When
rabbit.
spring
The
rolls
rabbit
around.
was in the-
Okay. Yeah. So can it continue?
No, probably not on that level.
Yeah.
No, life happens.
Life happens.
Agreed. You can't keep that.
But you can keep
Intensity?
the concept.
The concept.
Yeah.
And I would
You know, I
say,
used to get so mad at Betty. One of the things, day I'd get up and I just really thought that I would enjoy being negative. I just told it to myself.
Yeah.
She would always say, and she was one of those people, count your blessings, Joe.
You didn't feel like counting. You didn't feel like counting.
No, I didn't.
I don't want to count.
But you know, now I see that she had that attitude, and I all of her life, all of our life together.
and I'm going to say again, and I think I can choose to be like this if I want to be. I have to put everything out to do that. Okay? And you know, I would say I hope to do it. Cindy might say, well, you never do. I don't know. I mean, but yes, you can still feel like this. You've just got to block out everything like we do on our honeymoon and say this is all life's about today or this weekend or whatever it is. I'm going to just enjoy my spouse. And I think you can get there. But it's hard because the next thing you know, a bill shows up on the desk and it's like, well, yeah, so much for that.
Yeah.
So
Where
anyway,
did this come from?
the last part is what I really want to talk about. We're back to the youths in general. So what this said, the last verse is, my sister, my bride, you are a locked garden, a sealed spring. And what they said that is talking about is that she came to the marriage a virgin. And what a virtue, and how good that was. And I just say, see the exclusivity of marriage from the start. Is there value in that? How can we help our young people see that? Because I don't think our world is teaching that anymore. I don't think, and if this is truly the first night of love for these people, I don't think our world is teaching the value of that anymore. And how do we teach that? How do we combat the couple on TV that meets and winds up in bed the next scene after the commercial? They're waking up the next morning. How do we combat that? As Christians, as elders, I'm reading a thing now talking about elders, as examples to our young people, as elders, as Christians, how do we go about teaching that? How do we fight that?
Prayer is.
Turn off the TV, I'll tell you.
Turn the TV off.
The TV is really bad.
Well, you know, I
Right,
think a
she's
good
talking about-
example of
okay, so
that
tell what you're
is
talking about now.
the last
He's talking about.
last 3 or 4 weeks, everywhere I've gone, in Saline County,
We will
is a
do
dry
that because we
county.
got about 5 minutes.
Anyway, there's somebody out there with a petition, and I've got to where I just don't want to go anywhere. But where are our churches? Nowhere to be found. Same way when all the rest of us got the license to have drinks.
You know,
It's the same thing with everything else. Where are we? We're not doing it.
I think let's stand up for our biblical beliefs. That's what I will say. And I am going to say thanks for coming today, and we will see y'all next week, hopefully. And click that off for us, same way you turned it on.